Hello, it's Molly Reamer with Bridget's Grove and 30 Days of Goddess, and I am here with an October welcome message for you and some resources and inspiration to get started. And first of all, I wanted to explain real quick, if you're new, welcome, and you can start right here, right now. Below this video, in the post to which the video is attached, you will find everything that you need to get going with a simple 30 Days of Goddess practice. And if you have been here since January 1st when we began, then welcome back. You are so valued, and I'm so glad to see you deepening and developing and growing in your practice as the year continues to unfold. So everybody's welcome. I'm glad you're here. 30 Days of Goddess, in short, is a process for developing, deepening, nurturing, and nourishing daily practice in your life, particularly on a goddess-centered path, but really on any sacred journey, spiritual development, exploration of the sacred, both within and without. 30 Days of Goddess is not a prescription or a directive, and it is also not a challenge. You don't have to do all 30 days. You don't have to do it a certain way. You don't have to participate publicly, and you don't even have to use anything I offer. It is about you and your path and cultivating and growing in the practices that work for you. So what I have done with 30 Days of Goddess is create a bouquet, a buffet, a blessing basket of resources that you can use. I love to see people jump off from what I've created and add their own twist on everything. And yeah, so it's about creating practices that work for you. To that end, I have created a series of resources that support, bolster, nurture, and encourage the practice. And then you can mix and match and combine and work with them in the way that meets your needs best. And so what we have is prayer. Basically, it's a combination of prompts, prayers, and practices. And so 30 Days of Goddess, as I've noted before, becomes kind of a metaphor for daily practice. So it's a way of describing daily practice. It doesn't have to literally mean exactly 30 days. It doesn't have to be treated in a rigid, dogmatic way like, oops, I missed day 27, so that means I'm failing. It's open-ended, it's infinitely flexible, it's infinitely personal, and it is endlessly adaptable and modifiable. So, but at the heart, there's prompts, prayers, and practices. And so, to that end, we have companion resources. So we do have printed prayer books. Those are available in our Etsy shop, which is bridgetsgrove.etsy.com. And I make a new one of these every month, or I have for most of the months this year. And the printed spiral bound prayer books have little affirmation cards in the back, as well as larger prayer cards and quote unquote stickers that you just cut them out and glue them in. They're not really stickers, but that's the concept behind them. And then it has a page for every day for 30 days, as well as a list of prompt words. And these books so they're intended to be kind of a grab and go resource. Like you have what you need in them. You have your little stickers, you have your little affirmations, you have your little prayers. It kind of becomes, it was described to me once by Ruth in our Patreon group as a portable tiny temple, which that's where I am right now, is in my real tiny temple, which is a building in my front yard where I come to work and have ceremonies and that kind of thing. And so, but the book itself becomes kind of a portable tiny temple for you, a space to hold your magic, a space to hold your wisdom, and a container in which you can be held. And so I often carry my prayer book with me throughout the day, like just set it by my computer or put it by my bed, or take it if I go in the car, I take it with me because it's this portable sacred space. Like it comes with me and it brings me home to myself like over and over again, as well as producing this kind of sensation of a touchstone with the sacred or this resource. So you also have the option of making your own prayer book. I want this practice to be open and accessible to as many people as possible. So there is printable files. So this is a homemade one that I sewed, and there are printable files and resources below as PDFs for making your own. The printable file that I've included is considered, as I have called it, a flexible use prayer book, in that it does not have the prompt words listed, and it doesn't have, it's not associated with a specific month, so you can print it at any time and use it at any time. If you are a patron of our Patreon community, which is patreon.com/Bridget'sGrove, you do always get access to any printable that I create. You get access to any printable that I create. And so every month I provide the updated seasonally kind of aligned prayer book file that you can print out and make your own if you don't want to buy one from the shop. So that's always available. But again, I want this to be open and accessible, so I keep it as free as possible. But thank you to my patrons in the Patreon community, because the fact that they are here supporting me behind the scenes enables me to create resources that I can then share with other people for free. There's also the simple logbook version for you to make. This one isn't available in print yet, but there's a simple logbook version which has just a little tiny box and a little space to write for each day. So if you find a big book overwhelming or just basically doesn't really fit, as I noted, 30 Days of Goddess really is about creating things that fit for you. And so if a big book of wisdom doesn't fit for you, then have a tiny logbook of wisdom, and that'll be great too. And so I do make that available to you as well on an ongoing basis. And then, I adjusted the format this month. So there are two versions of the logbook, one that has 6 little spaces for entry, kind of per single sheet of paper, not 6, 6 or 12 if you print it out double-sided. And then there's another one that has a blank page, so you can do a little bit more art. So you can have 3 days of logging, a little page of art, 3 days of logging, a little page of art. And so that one is available to you too. Then we also have an introductory 7 Days of Goddess free class, and I will link to that below so that you can take it. This is meant to be perpetual and open-ended. And so if you need a place to come back to, so to speak, or if you need reassurance or affirmation, or if you want to just get reminders about the role and value of devotional practice and daily practice, you can dip into that 7 Days of Goddess class. Or if 30 days sounds too overwhelming, go ahead and do 7 days and see where it takes you. So that free class is available to you as well as a supplement to an ongoing 30 Days of Goddess type of practice. And then we also have the companion devotional card deck, and you will see every month I create new prayers and prompt cards, and new prayers and prompts and affirmation cards primarily, but we do have a professionally printed deck as well. It comes in this 10 case. These are magnets that I have added to the top. The case is plain when you get it. And then that deck consists of prompts. It can be split into 3 small decks: prompts, prayers, and practices. So they're color coded. So blue is the prompt, red is the practice, and purple is the prayer. And you can mix and match from that card deck each day if you wish. And so particularly if you don't feel like writing, you can choose cards from the deck and kind of create a mix and match, build your own practice every day from that deck. And as I said, I make printable cards available. Every month I make new ones. This deck is intended to be a standalone product, and it's intended to be perpetual use. So you can use this deck forever. And then I create additional add-on pieces that go out to the patrons, and then in public posts like this that you can cut out and glue in your book, or you can add to your deck, or you can create a little deck for yourself that you read the prayer out of, that kind of thing. But the deck itself is meant to be standalone, perpetual resource that you can use forever in a lot of different ways and in the combination of ways. But the idea is that you pick a word to hold in your heart, to meditate on, to use as a writing prompt, and you pick a practice, really simple micro ritual, tiny thing to do. And then you pick a prayer, and then the idea is that you would read that prayer aloud. And so that choice of 3 cards can create this small, tiny, sacred container, little sacred space, little moment of pause in your life, in your day, to have a goddess center practice right there, like right out of the box, if you will, without necessarily creating and generating a lot of stuff on your own. I know people have many different styles of lives, and people are busy, and people have a lot that asks for their attention. So my vision in creating this deck is that it would be a space held for you in deck form that you can use to inspire and rejuvenate yourself, even if you only have a few minutes that day. And so that's the other product that's available to you. As I said, I also do lots of printable different prayer cards. You will find a set of starter prayer cards below that's a PDF that you can print out and cut apart. Those cut apart ones can be used as a deck, so you can just draw from them. You don't have to necessarily do anything else with them, or you can glue them into your pages as like this one that I have here. I've glued it in. So instead of writing something new, I've glued in the prayer that I already printed. And then my favorite way to use them is to make a little pocket on the page. So you just glue along 3 sides, and then you have a pocket to hold something else. So I often put in other little notes or things that relate to the day, or little tiny books and things like that into my little pocket, or feathers that I find, that kind of thing. And so those things are available. This post is intended to be, as I said, like fresh start. If you haven't watched any other videos, if you haven't done anything else, you can start here with all the printables that are below, and that will be enough to get you going. You don't have to buy anything, and you don't have to make anything necessarily, and you don't have to go backwards and try to catch up with anything. So something that I wanted to make sure to mention this month is that this practice is not about the book. I feel like sometimes it has, yeah, sometimes people feel like it's about making a book. And the making the book is wonderful. Making the book is amazing. And it really has changed my life. It's changed the lives of a lot of people that have spoken to me about making space for daily practice. But the book itself is not the point. The point is about cultivating and nourishing devotion. The book becomes a sacred space, a container for holding that experience, for holding that expression. But it isn't the be all or end all itself, or it isn't an assignment to complete. And so yeah, so but the basic practice with the book is to use it as a container for holding your experience. So if you cut out a little affirmation, you can stick them into the little boxes on the bottom. This is my homemade one. And if you write something new, you can put it in the center, or you can glue in a little card. You can note the moon phase, your mood, your rune of the day, or your card of the day. If you have woman runes, you can note the rune. If you have a different favorite deck, you can write that down. And yeah, and then kind of becomes like a holding space for that day, and a place of witness for you and what you're learning and discovering. And so one of the things that, oh, yes, and the other thing I wanted to mention is if you buy a printed prayer book, the prayer cards are in there. If you're making your own, I've separated those things out so that your book file will print out as a book, and then your card file will print out separately, so then you can add the cards in. I didn't make it attached because then you're just sewing something together and then cutting it apart. Whereas in the printed prayer books, that's part of the deal. They're kind of like packaged together, and then you tear out what you want to use. In the make your own version, I have separated the files out. So I wanted to make sure to mention that. But one of the things that's really most powerful to me, and that's one of the things I really wanted to emphasize that I think is at the heart of this practice, is it is bearing witness to what is, but it's also being alert for the connections that weave their way throughout your day. So I am a big fan of morning practice, but I'm also a fan of like all day practice. And so taking a few minutes in the morning to settle down with your book, to settle down with your cards, to settle down with your colorful pens or colored pencils, and your oracle cards, and just take a few minutes time out. That is gives you something to start with. And then from there, like I consider it to be something, it's like resource that you can then draw upon for replenishment as the rest of the day unfolds. But you also can be alert for the connections that weave their way throughout the day. So maybe your word is joy, and then you happen to notice that the tag on the underwear you just bought, it has joy in the name of the underwear. This actually happened to me, is why I'm mentioning it. And so you cut out the little joy from your underwear tag and put it in your book. Like that can be, that's these are tiny scraps of magic, tiny scraps of synchronicity and little overlaps that all weave together. And so yeah, I tend to carry my book with me throughout the day, and then I trust as well how those connections will weave together. So I expect to see magic, I expect to be enchanted, I expect to find joy, I expect to be delighted by something, and as it turns out, as the day unfolds, those things all happen because I kind of trust that those connections will be there and that I will spot it, even if it's small, even if it's raggedy, even if it's an underwear tag, I'll spot the connections. And so I feel like 30 Days of Goddess gives us both permission and a structure or form in which to spot the connections and in which to bring the seemingly disparate elements of our lives together. And so one of the basic things too is to create a special spot or have a spot that you go to visit or make a specific altar where you can show up for each day. So I go out right now, I go out onto my back deck every morning when I wake up. I take my prayer book with me. I leave my phone inside. Pro tip, don't take your phone with you. And I go outside and I bring my book and I bring my pens and I sit and I bear witness to what there is in the world. And so something I've said repeatedly is the most powerful magic I know is to look, listen, and feel. So carry your book, sit, relax your senses, and cast your gaze outward. Look, listen, and feel. What is there right now? And what connections and what magic is present right there? And how does it weave together? And so I find it really powerful to see and learn from what's right there, what the weather is doing, what the flowers and plants are doing, what the trees are doing, what the wind is doing, what the animals are doing, what the sky is doing. That's For me, that's where the magic is. That's what I find. And I learn a lot every day from just bearing witness to the same spot and seeing it's always different. That's part of the magic too. And it also can help to memorize a prayer so you always have it with you. So I have a series of about 5 prayers that I say every morning. And so I just say those prayers every morning. And then I write a new prayer. I use a card from the devotional deck. So there's a lot of prayer in the world that you might find it. It might be art, it might be cards for you, it might be photographs that you take. There can be other ways to connect. And so what else did I want to say? I think that's about it. I just wanted to encourage you to, yeah, not be rigid and dogmatic. If you miss a day, just start again the next day. You can even, I don't recommend catching up, but, for example, maybe you want to just, glue something extra down. If you skipped writing, maybe you want to glue something down or uh, add some stickers or something like that. But no pressure to catch up, no pressure to perform, no pressure to please me. This is about something that works for you. And so you may find your own approach varies widely. You may find it varies from day to day, but the idea is that it helps hold and nourish and nurture and sustain you in this sometimes wild and whirling world that we live in. And but I have found, so I don't want to minimize, I said it's not about the book, but I don't want to minimize the power of that daily act of creation and that daily act of showing up in a slightly structured sort of form. I really do feel like it's one of the single most powerful things that I have done to deepen into my path and to strengthen my connection to the goddess, to the sacred what is, and to kind of unleash my creativity and to return myself to center again and again, to return to center again and again. It gives me space to do that. So I hope it will give you space to do that as well. And so thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being part of this experience in this practice in whatever way works for you. Many blessings, and may the goddess guide and nourish you, encourage, and inspire you. Thanks for being here.